Welcome to the Wedco podcast, your ultimate guide to the wedding world. Whether you're a bride, groom, or wedding vendor, this is the place to be. Join us as we dive into real stories, expert advice, and behind-the-scenes insights to help you plan the perfect day. So grab a seat and let's celebrate love, connection, and creativity together. Before we get into this episode, I'd love to ask you a super quick and easy favor. If you're enjoying the Wedco podcast, please hit that follow button on Apple, Spotify, or YouTube. It might seem small, but it makes a huge difference in helping the podcast grow and means I can keep bringing on amazing vendors to share their insights with you. Thank you so much for your support. It truly means the world. Hello and welcome to the Wedco podcast. I'm Toga, and today I have Nat back in the studio with me.
Hi.
We had Nat, it would have been about a year ago now that you would have been on the podcast.
Yeah.
Talking all things Under the Arbor, running every single which way there was, every marathon around the world. But yeah, just wanted to have you back in because since then, obviously Under the Arbor has, I feel, grown like crazy since that point. But then also your new exciting adventure as well. Like I really want to delve into that, especially around anyone I speak to around this area about you have the nicest things to say about you and how much you've kind of just nurtured other people just off your own back. So yeah, I just want to have you in because you're just a really nice person to talk to.
Thanks, Toga. That is really kind to share. I feel the same way about like this industry. So yeah, it's awesome and good to see you again.
Yeah, too. All right, so I guess we could start. Let's maybe kind of start with Under the Arbor because I'd like to start with that a little bit because I feel like even from last time you still had a team involved with Under the Arbor, but I feel like from the outside looking in, that has grown a fair bit since the last time we spoke. Mm-hmm. So maybe, what's changed there to start with?
Yeah, it sounds good. I'm a really big believer in investing in people and good people and not being afraid to hire or recruit. The journey for me when I originally recruited was that I realised early on as Under the Arbor was growing that I wanted to do the best I could for my couples in terms of wedding delivery and then their communication experience once they've booked me. Mm-hmm. And to be able to continue with all of my ventures outside of Under the Arbor, I knew that I needed support. And so for me at the time, I wanted connection. I was toying between virtual assistance and support, but I actually went to TAFE, TAFE Queensland, and I spoke and recruited my initial two girls, Claude and Sophie. And through that, look, it was just the most incredible experience to watch two very passionate individuals that care about hospitality and events with a interest in weddings. Yeah. Watch them learn and grow and really enjoy this industry. Yeah. And then they came on board in a longer term capacity with me, and we have gone back to TAFE again and we recruited again. We have two more interns working with us at the moment because for me, it's being able to offer that practical experience for them. And also it's a bit of like, are we going to work long-term as a team? Like, do you have the same values and can we share that team culture that, I really believe in? Mm-hmm. And so through that, you do really get to know how each other works, operates, what their strengths are or the areas that they can improve on with their skill set. Mm-hmm. And I love to be able to mentor and teach. So it's been a really great avenue for me in terms of recruiting and scaling, and everyone has continued in the team, which has been fantastic. We're now a team of 8, which, the fact that I can even say that, over 12 months growth just now has been pretty phenomenal. It's allowed me to have the space and capacity to also begin this new venture with the Celebration Studio too. So it's very cool.
Can we touch about going to a TAFE? Is this something you had done in the past as far as recruiting, or like how did you come up with that idea of this is what I want to do?
Well, back in my day, there wasn't a university degree for hospitality and event management. So I actually went to TAFE in Melbourne. Yep. I knew that that's what I wanted to do. I worked in the event industry from when I was 15 years old. Mm-hmm. I volunteered at events. My mum and dad were like, I know work experience next year, but you're starting now. And I loved it. I loved learning. And through that journey, I wanted a practical education. And so TAFE was the right direction for me at the time. And through that opportunity is actually where I got my first job with Hayman Island.
Oh, wow.
Because that was the opportunity that they were awarding 3 scholarships.
Yeah.
I was very fortunate that I had won the Ducks Award at my college. And so I was offered this opportunity to work initially at Hayman Island.
Yeah.
And then that's where I started my passion for weddings.
Amazing.
So because I was given those opportunities through my tertiary education, I have always been a really big advocate to support and give back in that capacity too, because I've been there.
Yeah.
I then had my sport and event management career with the Commonwealth Games and Olympics the next 10 years, and there was further study that I did want to pursue myself. So I went and did a master's in business alongside that career path at the time. And I loved that journey. And oh my gosh, that's where I learnt to write. And that's why I ended up becoming a celebrant. But for me, you know, at the time, TAFE was that entry level to work out, you know, is this the direction I really wanted to head?
For sure.
And I knew then I did. So it has been a combination of me wishing to give back, but also working with other educators in their field to say, look, these are the opportunities I can offer and the skills that I can teach. Are there any students that want to learn?
That's so cool. Because that's something I've struggled with. Like, obviously, I've gone down the offshore route as far as like a lot of my editors and everything go. Because like I've put out even for Pod Byron here an ad for someone for the studio, and I had 70 people apply. And it's really hard to kind of, I wanted someone young who is driven and wants to grow essentially with me and with my business. And I feel like it's really hard to find someone in that position. There's a lot of people that were older than me that would be a mate, like they'd love the position, but I just wanted someone with that drive and you know, just wanted to create something themselves as well. And it's a funny thing where all I want for other people is to have their own business and grow their own business. But then also you want someone like a really good employee who wants to grow with you as well. And it's so hard to mix those two together.
Yeah, I know. And look, it's funny because I'm a real open book as well. So I share the highs and lows of business with my team.
Yeah, awesome.
They know what's a good week and maybe a more challenging week. I want to share, you know, ins and outs because it's the best way for me to mentor them. And I know that they are so capable that one day that they're going to have their own thriving businesses. And as much as that may be a sad moment for me, I know how proud I will be that that's the journey that they take for themselves, because it would mean that I've inspired them in some way to do something themselves too.
Exactly.
Right now, please don't leave because I love and adore you and really need your support.
You've got a lot to learn still.
You know, but we're navigating that because as I shared with you, you know, some of the team didn't necessarily have great administration skills to begin with. And so it's working through how to write emails or just how we talk in our tone of voice, like what they might share in a personal email is very different to how we talk as Under the Arbor.
Yeah, definitely.
And it's same with content writing and developing. There's a brand we need to represent.
Yeah.
And so it's being able to, you know, work through that. But as an example, it's the new year now and we have had an incredible year. I have all the team over next week and we're having a team day.
Awesome.
I'm making lasagna. But we're going to reflect on everything that we did achieve last year, but also my theme for next week is what are we doing to continue to exceed our couple's expectations.
Beautiful. Yeah.
And so I want to workshop that with the team. Particularly, we won an award last year, which was phenomenal. And as much as I took a breath to congratulate myself and the team for that, there is that wish to retain it.
Yes, for sure.
And so now, you know, we thought we were doing great and, you know, but when you're recognized as the best in your area, you then are really kind of saying, well, now you know.
Yeah, exactly.
And so I want to make sure that it's not just something we retain, but it's not something we take for granted either.
Yeah, definitely.
And so they are the things that we're talking through to improve our own skills as a team.
I love that. And even like every person has a different thing that motivates them as well. Like, I mean, I know that you've managed big teams before in the past, so you have a lot of, you know, skill in that. With the younger team, how do you find managing people's different, like what motivates them? You know, is there any like skills you kind of develop there?
I also ask them.
Yeah.
You know, I ask them what they want to learn from me too.
Awesome.
I like the relationship to be two-way, and I would say, and you know, I'm a flexible person as well. So when there are things that come up for them, I pride myself in going, yeah, I understand. If you can let me know in advance,
Yes.
then we will come up with a solution. But I always want you to be transparent and communicate with me, and then our relationship is going to thrive.
Yeah.
And it's a two-way thing for me. I ask in terms of what their long-term motivation. So really early days, Sophie and my team shared with me that she would love to be a celebrant one day. And so initially we were learning coordination skills, and she's one of the best planners that I've ever worked with now.
Yeah.
But Soph started last year her celebrant course.
How cool.
And this is part of the professional development that I want to support my team.
Definitely.
Sam also started this year.
Yeah.
So 2 of the girls plus me will be celebrants within Under the Arbor
How
because
cool.
that's a passion for them.
Yep.
And they've watched me through several ceremonies, and for them there's a feeling and they want to be able to support and represent their couples in that way in the future too.
Yep. Okay, last part on Under the Arbor, like, okay, if you had a word for 2026, would you have a word to describe it for Under the Arbor?
Thriving.
Yeah, love it. Awesome. So what does thriving look like? I mean, from the outside, you're thriving already. You're winning awards, you know, you're at the top of the game at the moment. What does that look like for Under the Arbor this year?
Yeah, it's a great question. It is also perhaps about retention too. I am a really big believer in us focusing in our lane. I really do clear and block out any other noise around us that doesn't impact us.
That's a massive skill.
Yeah, I mean, look, it starts probably from high school, doesn't it? But I really just like to, I want to focus on what I do well and what our team does well. Everything else is background noise for me. And I've always been driven in that way personally, in regards to my other personal goals as well.
Yeah.
But I feel for me, if I can continue to deliver the best for our couples and be the best manager and leader I can be for our team, and have still maintained my strong relationships that I have with my vendor friends and venues in the industry, then for me, I know I've done a great job. And so I really just want to retain that and lead. And so that is also where that new venture sort of came about, because I do really care about sharing what I have learned over the years, and not just in this wedding industry, but much prior to that. Because I hear in our industry that a lot of my professional relationships, they're tired.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, we came to the end of last year, and, you know, I celebrated, we had our 4th birthday, and I had, you know, some of my closest vendor relationships for that year have a dinner together. And, you know, we all had a chat, and everyone was like, oh my gosh, can't wait for this year to be over.
Yeah.
Quite simply, burnout.
Yeah.
But this has been a theme, you know, beyond 2 years, that people in the industry share that they're tired and they are sick or ill. And I'll never forget a moment where I was attending a wedding, and the musician was ill.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, how are you doing? They're like, I won't hug your nuts. I'm not feeling great. I was like, oh my goodness, but you're here.
Yeah.
They're like, yeah, of course. I'd never let my couple down, which of course we all understand that. I was like, what's going on? He said, oh, I've had back-to-back, you know, weddings, and just, you know, it's all caught up on me, and just was really quite flat.
Yep.
And it made me think, why do we do this to ourselves?
Yeah, for sure.
You know, the long drives, the 10-hour, 12-hour days and everything, and ultimate fatigue. And we do need to look out for each other in this industry. And the more conversation I was having, as I really resonated with the pain and the feelings of people feeling isolated and burnt out.
Yep.
And I thought, you know what, I was almost there, but I put systems in place to ensure I didn't get there.
Yep.
And I put out a little note on our Instagram stories and just asked, you know, our friends, you know, how is everyone feeling? And people wrote back and said, you know, ready to quit.
Yep.
And that's so sad to hear. And these are people that are, I believe, at the top of their craft, people that have inspired me over the last years, that are really quite ready to leave the industry.
Yeah.
And as exceptional as they are with their creative, their business and their systems suck.
Yes.
And so I thought, I'm going to be the one that helps support this.
Oh, good. I love it. And it couldn't come from a better person. And the thing that rubs me the wrong way with other coaches, especially in other spaces, is like these people will try and tell you how to do something, but they don't have any proof themselves. And I really struggle with that. But then like coming from you and seeing your business and how you've done it along the way, and also just the relationships that you've had with other vendors as well, it's like you have that authority, you've built that. And also, like you said, you've been close to burnout and you're like, no, I need to step back. Like speaking to you and you're like, I blocked out December, January this year.
Mm-hmm.
There's not many wedding vendors that are brave enough to do that because it is such like a feast or famine type of job where it's like everyone wants to take everything because you never know what the next year is going to do. And so, yeah, let's go a little bit into Celebration Studio. I feel like we've got the backstory of how it came about already, but do you want to explain a little bit about the new venture for us?
Yeah, definitely. And so within this industry, as I've mentioned, I sort of very early came into the wedding industry, and then I spent the next decade in sport and major events. Mm-hmm. And then I came back into the wedding industry, and originally I was from Melbourne, but then landed on the Gold Coast. Yeah. And so when I did start Under the Arbor, I truly had not a single relationship. I knew no one.
Yeah.
We'd been married the 4 years prior to me starting Under the Arbor, so I knew some names because of the vendors that we'd chosen, but I knew no one.
Yeah.
And so here I am starting a new brand with no connections in a completely different industry that I'd been in, from a decade. Yeah. I was very comfortable in sport and the Olympics and venues and major sports, but wedding venues had changed and what was once cool was very different and all of that. So I learned, within that first 12 months to just connect and not to be anyone else but myself.
Beautiful.
And so, yes, I did the open days and was on the directories initially, but also very quickly learnt that some of those approaches or strategies weren't necessarily right for my business. Mm-hmm. And so how do you take someone that is a sole trader into that next level of I'm operating my brand now as a business? This is not just going to be a side hustle or a hobby.
Yep.
And so those steps that I took next were developing systems to structure what I hoped Under the Arbor to be, and we weren't there yet. It was just me. Mm-hmm. But I had recognized what I needed to do to be able to put those measures in place in order for me to then scale. Mm-hmm. Because often people will get to that booked out, burnt out position and then go, oh my gosh, it's too late at that point in terms of you're going to reach that eventually. Mm-hmm. What you do need to do is then go back a couple of steps and implement and spend time working on your business so that you can thrive.
Yes, exactly.
And then retain that business acumen so you can ultimately sustain it and scale for those years ahead.
Yeah, for sure.
And so recognizing this in my own journey, having had those conversations and I guess let's say business chat with vendor friends, a lot of people didn't really know what I was talking about.
Yeah.
And hadn't heard of letters like CRM and AI and things like that. And so I thought, well, look, that's great because they're awesome at their creative. They really know what their, let's call it genius zone is, but they don't necessarily have clear structure on what their business is. They couldn't clearly identify where their core challenges were or even identify, what their most successful packages were.
Yeah, exactly.
Where to spend or invest their time in terms of developing. One of my closest vendor friends, she not only did not have a laptop, she did not have a website.
Yeah.
Okay. And so, I smile and we have a little giggle about that. But she's just been operating her business through DMs.
Far out. Yeah, okay.
I mean, she's stressed. Don't get me wrong.
I can imagine.
But I just thought you are so successful and you're such a cool person. What are you doing?
Yeah, for sure.
And so I want to be able to create a forum to have connection through a workshop. Mm-hmm. And initially, I've created what's called Beyond Booked Out. Beautiful. So this specific workshop that we have launched, we have our first one in Brisbane at the Carlisle in March and then another planned for Sydney in July. Now, this initial series is for professionals that have been in our industry for 2-3 years or so and are getting bookings.
Yes, cool.
Maybe they're booked out.
Yep.
So it's specifically targeted at that. You're not a foundations new person getting started. We are running a series later down the track for that.
Beautiful.
But this is for us.
Yep.
I've made it for people like me.
Beautiful.
If I was Nat 2 years ago, it's for me.
Yep.
And so it's structured in a way that we are going to talk to certain topics. Yes, there's AI components. Yes, it's marketing and social media, but it's also about sustainability and growth. Okay, we do talk to systems.
Yep.
And so I want people to walk away with a plan and being able to identify things in their business that they're going to, make changes.
Yeah. I love that because like a lot of times you can go to something like this and like you feel so inspired by the time you leave and then you didn't action anything. So I love it that you're actually taking things away and like this is the plan of what you're doing after this.
That's exactly right. And we've got some incredible keynotes throughout the day. And each of those components, we have allowed time to workshop things.
Awesome.
It's not just another event.
Yes, beautiful.
And you would be surrounded by other like-minded professionals in this industry.
Yep.
And I use that word a lot rather than just wedding vendor friends.
Yep.
You are a wedding professional because you're taking your business seriously from here on.
Yep. That's what I love. I was talking earlier off camera about like these people are investing in their business. So you're going to be around other people that are also investing in their business. And there's nothing like having this, like obviously they're going to learn so much from the actual workshop, but then being around like-minded people that are like, no, this is important. I'm going to invest in myself and in my business. You're going to almost get as much out of that as from the actual workshop as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And gosh, like how many networking events have we been to over the years? And they're phenomenal and there's a great place for that.
Yep.
But this is education. This is business education for our wedding industry.
Beautiful. Yep.
And it's something I'm just so passionate about and really do have some global keynote speakers coming to speak on topics that really will change our life, I think, in terms of the way we operate and give time back. Like I think we all came into this industry because we wanted freedom.
Yeah, definitely.
Right?
Yep.
Like I left a very good corporate career to start Under the Arbor. And a lot of people, have left work or started part-time as a hobby or passion project and have ultimately found themselves in a place where they can transition into a full-time business.
Yeah.
But they didn't give themselves that time to work on the business in the early stages and are perhaps burning out now.
Yes, for sure.
And I understand it. We've been there and a lot of my friends have been there.
For sure.
So it is really about recognizing that now so that this can be a sustainable career and can support your families.
Definitely.
That's the goal.
Yeah, because otherwise it comes to that point where you are booked out and you're stressed and you get to the end of a wedding season and the last thing you want to do is work on your business. You're so wrecked by the end of it, like, I just need a month off. I just need to like recuperate because I know the next one's going to be hard as well. And most people, including myself, will get to that point where you are burnt out before things change. Like it has to get really bad before you're like, okay, I need some systems. But I love that you're trying to like preempt that. Like let's never get to this stage,
Yeah, absolutely. Because I think, we see it every day. And then ultimately, when we are burnt out, we're not going to be the best version of our creative on the day for our couples.
For sure.
And so ultimately, that's going to end up you not delivering as well. Your other relationships are going to recognize that in you and go, oh gosh, wow, they've really changed. And they weren't that upbeat or they're not as onto it as they used to be 12 months ago. They missed this.
Yes.
And then, you might get that 1-star review.
Yeah.
And then how do you respond to that and how do you continue to grow? So it is really trying to put systems in place so that you can, nurture and protect your sustainable business.
Yep. Do you want to talk about like keynote speakers for this one in Brisbane?
Yeah.
Do you want to mention any of those people that you have coming on?
Oh, it's so cool.
Yeah?
Yeah, love it. So a lot of people in our industry will know Evelyn Parsons. Yep. She is phenomenal and someone I have looked up to in business and wedding industry for years now. Evelyn is coming in to talk about how she recruited initially. So she has an incredible team within her. She's in the hair and makeup industry for those that don't know her. And she will talk to virtual assistant support and how she started to automate and structure her business in the early days.
Cool.
So that's really great. And so she's our wedding industry speaker.
Yep.
And then we have Tony Beish. Tony is a global expert on AI.
Oh, yes. Awesome.
So she's going to, I've asked her to bring it back a little bit for us.
Yeah, rein it in.
Rein it in. Yes, I know you have some incredible clients, but we are fairly new compared to who she would speak with. But she is going to give us some incredible insights and talk to, yes, ChatGPT, yes, how we can use it within our business, but give us some tools to help streamline our processes as well.
Yep.
And it doesn't matter whether you're a stylist, a planner, or you're in catering, it will be relevant across the board for our industry, which is really cool.
Yeah.
It's just saving time.
Yes, exactly.
And then I have Monique from The Socialista.
Yep.
She is an incredible social marketing speaker. She has over, I think, 100 and something thousand followers on Instagram. She's got some great tools within her Instagram platform. But she's going to speak on trends, upcoming algorithms that we should be aware of, what to stop when things are not working, but also what to kind of keep working on. So we're going to talk through all of those tips and, of course, allow the space to work on some of those within that workshop timeframe too.
Yeah. I love that. Like, because of the size of your brand, like with the 8, people in your staff now, you can have more output. Like, I've been seeing the content days that you're doing now as well. And so I think it's inspiring for people that are still working by themselves that can see like you can get to this point as well, because it can get overwhelming when you look at bigger teams and they're like, and they're doing this and they're doing this and they're doing this. And you're like, but it's just me. So I think it's like people can look to people like you as well and be like, yeah, because I know you purposely, like, we're going to create a day, it's going to cost us money, but we're going to create content here because that's going to be good for our business.
Yeah.
And as much like the wedding industry still is business-wise very behind other industries. And so things that you're doing and especially, these people talking about AI, it might seem really basic to them, but I feel like in the wedding industry, that's going to blow so many minds. And it could save 5 or 10 hours each week just by implementing different little systems that way as well. And then all of a sudden booking an extra wedding isn't stressful.
I think like back in the day, we used to compare, like, how many weddings have you done this year? It always used to be a measure of success, was quantity. But I have definitely noticed that shift over the last 12 months that it's no one talks about numbers anymore like that. It's actually, are you built for your business? Like, what are the systems you're using? So the questions or the coffee chat now is like, what do you use? How are you doing this? And it's more about like, how's the back end of your business and the strength in that. And that is what we measure now success on, I think. And if you can really invest in that, then not only will you have a sustainable business, but you will have that freedom back in your world and you won't burn out. You can ultimately take on less weddings and then you'll have more freedom with everything else you wish to achieve.
Like, you come to the end of 2026 and you're looking at Celebration Studio, what makes you think like, this is successful? We've had a good year. I'm really happy with where we are. Like, what is the goal towards the end of the year that you feel like a winner?
I think for me is the feedback that we'll receive from these workshops. I want to hear from people that have attended that they have implemented and this is what's changed in their world. For you, Steve, it's probably, extra surfing.
Yes, definitely.
Mornings. And I know you're almost there. And for me, it's hearing those stories where people are going, I'm excited about 2026. I don't feel like there were many of the conversations I were having where people were like, yeah, I can't wait for next year. Everyone's like, oh, they're dreading it before we've even started. And I really hope that from what we do support this year with our workshops and the community that we'll build through a membership, I hope that connection allows people to understand they're not alone. It's absolutely okay to experience what you experience, but we do need to make some changes.
For sure.
Okay. I think a lot of people feel nervous to speak up or buy tickets or invest in workshops like something like this because they're like, if I put my hand up for this and people will know that perhaps I haven't got it all together. But I'm here to tell you it's okay. I see you and you're not alone.
For sure.
We are navigating this together. We all started solo, but it doesn't mean that the journey needs to be alone.
And especially there are enough weddings out there, like there's so many weddings out there that even if you are feeling like you're at the top of the game now, like you said, to be able to continue that way, there is still so much to learn each and every year as well. And so like you said, maybe it is refining and you give a better service and now you can charge a little bit more and take on a few less weddings, but there is always different things you can be working on to kind of keep growing as well.
Yeah, I think like that's life, right? Like
Yeah, for sure.
I think I've always been someone that has wanted to improve. Like you run a 5K, you get your time, you're like, oh, next week I'm going to try and do that better, right?
Yeah, for sure.
It's almost an obsession with improving. And that's why perhaps I went back and I further studied in my master's degree because I was like, yes, I've got, a dual diploma and yes, I had the Dux Award. But for me, it's like, no, I want to absolutely invest in my knowledge.
Yep.
And so I went back and studied. I want to always improve. Now, for some people, that doesn't always come as naturally. So I want to be able to like share that belief around and go like, it's okay.
Yep.
You can continue to learn. It's not too late. And that if you do so, you will really make the changes in order to succeed.
I want to ask this question. So for myself, delayed gratification, I kind of go too far, delayed gratification, where I'm always like delay. And I feel like I never really get to the point of celebrating what you've achieved. Obviously, you're a very high achiever. How do you go, you've learned that you wanted to implement these systems because you were getting too busy, but you want to have a sustainable business essentially. How do you go now actually taking stock of how well you've done in the moment instead of just pushing for the next thing?
I think for me, if I look at it from Under the Arbor's perspective, for me, it's when my team are taking the sales calls and they're still asking questions, but they're different questions.
Yep.
They're not about learning systems as such. It's more about questions around the business and their knowledge has increased.
Yep.
So ultimately that I don't necessarily need to be in the room or the office every single day because they are operating without me.
Yeah.
I took a test last year.
Yeah.
I went overseas, different time zone, which is what apparently is recommended to see how your team would thrive without you. And they did an awesome job. They were delivering weddings while I was in the States and had the best feedback from our couples. I did notice, however, that I was still on email every now and then to check in and just to make sure that they were doing okay. And, they were reassuring me and there were a couple of emails back and forth. And I was almost there. I felt like we were 80% there of me actually having a break.
Amazing.
Okay.
Awesome. Yep.
Then December, I went to Japan.
Yep.
And ultimately, we've taken 2 months off as a team.
Beautiful.
Okay. So there was an out of office on and emails were coming through. And it was the first time, I think, for a full week that everything was under control. The team were looking after those emails that were coming through and the leads.
Yeah.
We weren't delivering weddings, but we were still available.
Yes.
And things were getting answered and I wasn't needed.
How good.
And for me, I measure success in that way because I took a break.
Yes. Yep.
And 4 years ago, I wouldn't have been able to do that. We have processes in place where password documents, all of those, how do we find things? Where are things saved? My team can access that without needing to ask me anymore. We have a CRM that if our couples call and ask a certain question, it will have all of our notes in there. They can answer them. I don't have to be on the end of every email and phone call anymore.
Yep.
And I also don't necessarily have to be at every wedding delivery.
Exactly.
I do so because I want to and I'm very passionate about being there if I can for my couples.
Yeah.
But I don't have to be at every one anymore because the skills that I've mentored them on, they represent me now.
I love that. I just went to Sri Lanka and same things. I still noticed a bunch of things falling apart while I was gone. So it's good to know. And like I was really conscious of those because the wedding side of things for me was good. I knew there's still 3 wedding videos got done while I was away. And so that part was good. But then there was management of the studio and kind of the overall management of the team definitely fell away over that time as well. And so it's good to know and continually work towards that. My wife's family, they have a big business and it's been a really big business, but then they've always struggled to walk away. And when they go away on a holiday for 4 weeks, they come back and they're putting out fires for the next 4 weeks after that. So it's just interesting that it doesn't matter how big the business is, doesn't really reflect success like you're talking about.
I think, and that is exactly it. And I think for me, the ultimate test is this April, I'm going to be away for 4 weeks and not contactable. This is the ultimate test. This is not just going overseas. In order to contact me, they have to use a satellite phone. And so I have been wanting to put these processes in place in preparation for this particular month of not being contactable.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Yeah.
But I'm not nervous about that. We're a few months away and I'm not nervous about how my business will operate while I'm away.
Yep. That's so cool. And do you want to talk about what you're doing for that month?
Let's hope it happens.
Yeah, for sure.
I am due to run a marathon in the North Pole.
Far out. That's because we talked about that last time. I think it got cancelled last year.
Yeah,
Is that
3
correct?
weeks out.
Far out. Yeah, okay.
I came back from a 37-kilometre run and I had missed calls and text messages and an email saying it's not happening.
Far out.
Yeah, so that was, it was disappointing. I won't lie. I felt really, really frustrated and just, you set yourself a goal and I was physically ready and I had sacrificed mornings and evenings and, even weddings that I perhaps could have delivered that I, wasn't able to. I was really upset.
Yep.
But this journey has been 4 years for me now. And this is my 4th attempt to get there. And I thought about it over Christmas and thought, okay, wow, Nats, you really need to start training. I think I remember sitting on the sofa thinking I should actually look at writing my program. And I sat on the program and I looked back at the dates and I thought, oh, you need to start tomorrow, girl. If you want to set these goals, you actually have to start really getting into your training tomorrow. So that Sunday night, I made the decision that I was going to try again.
Yeah.
And Monday morning ran and came back and I was thinking on that run what it would mean if it got cancelled again, 4 years in a row. And honestly, I was like, it's going to be okay. There's a 20% chance it'll happen.
Yep, okay.
But I have known that and I have gone into the journey accepting that it's very unlikely it's going to happen.
Yeah, okay. Yep.
And I'm at peace with that because I feel it's a good, healthy mindset for me to have a goal and it actually not happen anyway.
Yep.
You learn a lot about that journey when things don't go your way and it's okay.
Yep.
And a lot of people said, oh, well, at least you'll do another marathon, choose something else. And I keep saying, no, I don't want to.
Yeah, that's it.
Because this is the pinnacle for me.
Yep.
I have run over 20 of these things. I don't want to run any other marathon.
Just another one.
It's the North Pole. It's this Grand Slam event. And that is all I'm focused on. I'm just, hoping that it happens this year. If it doesn't, it's okay. And I've enjoyed running 36 and 37Ks just for fun before my weddings, and I will feel fit for a moment in time. But I think I've learned a lot with things not going my way. And so although that's in a personal part of my world, it's actually who I am in business too. And as a planner, when things don't quite go to plan, everyone always says to me, you are so calm, Nat. But I've always said to them, calm is a strategy. It's not that I'm a calm person. I have learnt to be calm.
Yeah.
And no one wants to see a planner running around.
Definitely
It
not.
causes anxiety across guests and the couple. So that's the very first rule if you work within Under the Arbor.
Yeah.
We don't run.
Yeah, perfect. I love
at
that.
weddings.
Yep.
Outside,
go for
yes,
it.
you need to be a marathon runner. But, I feel like I've learned a lot through that process. And I think within this wedding industry, and we all know that things don't always go to plan, but if us as professionals learn that skill set, then ultimately with the couple at the forefront of the experience, then they're going to have a better time for it because we are responding or reacting to those issues and bringing solutions to the table.
Definitely, yeah.
And in most cases, they never know, which is
exactly.
which is great.
And even coming back to how prepared you are feeling for this April, you might not have felt that prepared last April. Like this year, I'm not going to be contactable for 4 weeks. It might not have been that clear last year as well. So even how much the team's grown since then.
You are right. And last night, actually, I got a text from the directors of the event that are asking for, passport detail flights are progressing. And this is a stage actually that didn't happen last year.
Okay.
It was cancelled, with a lot of things not confirmed, or, it was really vague still.
Yep.
But for them 3 months out to be putting these measures and steps in place, I have confidence that, well, maybe it's going to happen.
Yeah.
So then I'm thinking, well, Nat, you really need to be ready for this, because truly I could, 2 weeks out, find out I'm going.
Yeah. Amazing.
Yeah.
Far out. That's, you'd get this all the time. Like, Nat, how are you doing so much? Do you get that? I would assume.
Yeah, I do.
You would, for sure. How do you communicate that to people?
There's 24 hours in a day.
Yep.
Right? My grandpa always used to say to me, I think it was when I slept in once as a kid. Once. And he used to say to me, Natalie, get up. It's 7 o'clock. What are you doing in bed? And, I'm a teenager. I'm supposed to be in bed at 7 o'clock. And he always used to say to me, Natalie, you can sleep when you're dead. And I really probably live by that. Mm-hmm. Not to say it's an unhealthy balance. My watch tells me if it is, but I believe that quality time is what I'm here for. Mm-hmm. And so, for example, as a mum, I'm working 10, 12 hours on a Saturday.
Yep.
Which most career paths, a weekend is a weekend off.
Yep.
So knowing this is the industry and the direction I've chosen, mm-hmm. I advocate for the quality time that I have then with my family. So for me, that might be sunrise beach, walks. Beautiful. That might be afternoons, taking the kids out riding, but then coming back to tackle some video calls.
Yeah.
I will make it work.
Yeah.
And I will do everything I can to ensure that they know that their mum is there, but that they know that I'm driven too.
Exactly. I love that.
And I think it's really cool when your kids can look up to you and just smile with what you're achieving.
Yeah, for sure. Yep.
You don't realize the impact that you have, whether it's your friends, family, or your children, by just being the person that you are. And my son, Lockie, started a YouTube channel last year. He's 6. And he's really passionate about this. So, I'm his creative director. I'm filming these things, these 20-minute videos of him drawing and teaching how to draw Minecraft figures. And he stops me mid-film and he goes, Nat. No, he didn't say Nat. He said, Mum. He says, Mum, I've got an idea how to monetize this.
Yeah, okay.
And I was like,
okay.
Where have you even heard that phrase? It's not necessarily in my vocabulary, but he's picked up at some point that he wants a lifestyle that he can sustain himself. Mm-hmm. And I thought, wow, I'm really impressed by that. And then I have my little one who's now 3, Bo, and he wants to start running.
Yeah.
Every time I go running, he says, can I come with you? And he's just that, well, he's a little bit too young to run 30 Ks, but I just think it's so great that he'll bring his shoes to the door.
Yeah.
And so when I'll come back, they'll ask me how was the run, and that they're interested in what that pain might have been for me.
Yeah.
And I find that inspiring. I hope that one day, whether it's running or something else, they can see the determination that I've had. And I'm also never afraid to cry in front of them.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
And so I think that'll help shape them down the track.
For sure.
And I guess, that's life, right?
That's so cool. And I feel like that's what young kids need. And they need to see that you have worked for 4 years to get to this point, and that it is hard, because it's not something that's ingrained, like that whole delayed gratification and working hard to reach a goal isn't really ingrained from a young age. And so I think, just modeling that to your kids is so much better than trying to tell them to do something. Yeah. It's just like, you do you, I'm just going to be here. And naturally they're going to be very high achieving kids just because they saw mum and dad doing that, and it's just, that's what we do as a family. Yeah. So I find that inspiring as well. It's really cool.
The dinner chats can get interesting. I will say, Bowen came up to me when he came home from daycare the other day and he was like, Mum, you working? I was like, yeah. He goes, too many work, Mum. And I thought, okay, darling, yeah. And it, have those moments where, yes, look, I have worked the hard yards. I've worked 7 days straight for a long time.
Yep.
But I recognize that, and I recognize that the reason I'm doing it is for a longer term plan.
Yep.
I am not burnt out.
Yep.
And as much as I do a lot outside of my professional life too, it makes me who I am now.
Yep.
And my friends and family that know that that's instilled in me,
Yep.
I think that they respect that in me and that they're my biggest fans. And I can't do this alone without the support of family and friends. And, you know, of course, like my husband, Matt's, there's no way I'd be where I am without him.
Yeah.
100%. And he's the best thing in my world. And so when we, you know, have those date nights and that quality time together, it's something that, you know, we value, but we also look back on everything we have achieved.
Yeah, exactly.
And just how cool that is too.
For sure. Last one, what's your view on the work-life balance then? Do you have like an overall position of how you feel about that?
Mine can be better.
Yep.
But I'm almost there.
Awesome.
I'm almost there.
Yep.
So I feel, to be honest, in 6 months I'm there.
How cool.
And I'll be really proud of it. I can see, for me, it's not necessarily a light at the end of a tunnel because I have been working on this for a while. It doesn't change overnight. So you need to firstly recognize that and then implement those steps for it to one day be the case.
Yep.
But I can recognize that I am almost there and I'm really excited for that. And I'm excited for what I can give back to this industry too.
Yeah, for sure. Because now you do get that time and space and freedom to be able to kind of go into these other ventures as well and provide that. So I'm very much in the work space more so than balance at the moment.
Yeah.
Everyone's kind of been there for 2 or 3 years and you love your work. So I'm the same way where I can work as many hours as I need to because I actually really enjoy that. How should people 2 or 3 years in be looking for work-life balance now, or should that be something that they look to in the future? I know everyone's different. Because essentially if you had work-life balance all along, you wouldn't have got to where you are. I'm just always interested in this kind of dynamic.
Yeah, I think it's a great question. I think for me, and it was identifying what are my aspirations. So I look ahead.
Yep.
Okay. So about 12 months ago, my husband and I were looking at the next 5 years. And for us, financial freedom was important.
Beautiful. And
balance with our family, that we could relocate overseas and enjoy 12 months homeschooling the kids.
How cool.
So these were some goals we're putting in place and we will do that. So we have chosen 2029 only really because I started to get 2028 inquiries and was like, right, okay. So in 2029, we are moving to Italy.
Yes.
For 12 months. And it's the right time for our children in primary school in terms of being able to do so. We're going to homeschool the kids. We're going to work remotely.
Yep.
And we'll rent out our house that'll cover our last little bit of the remaining mortgage.
How cool.
But we have goals.
Yep.
I think for anyone that's listening to this, where do you see yourself in 5 years? And as lame as that can sound, actually set those goals. What do you want for this next 5 years? And then you can work back and really start to understand, do you really need to work? Like you may need to work 7 days for a couple of years.
Yeah.
Like I've been there.
Yeah, exactly.
But you can't do that forever. It isn't sustainable. So although I was working 7 days for a couple of years straight, I was putting measures in place. So at the end of the road, I wasn't going to be doing that.
For sure.
Okay. So it's not a lazy tactic or anything like that. It's just work-life balance will mean something different to everyone.
Yep.
For me, it's being able to relocate for 12 months and return. For others, it'll be, being able to go to gym a couple of times a week.
Yep.
Or have dinners with their family. It will mean different things.
Yeah, for sure.
But I definitely think you can achieve it. And from someone that has really worked hard to be able to put those measures and systems in place to not be that far away from this goal.
Yeah.
It can, I guess I'm proof it can happen.
I love it. All right. And then what's the date of Beyond booked out?
Yeah. So in March, we are the 25th.
Yep.
It's in Brisbane at the beautiful Carlisle.
Perfect. And people can go to Celebration Studio. They'll have the website links and everything there.
Yeah, we are thecelebration.studio
Yep.
on the web and at We Are The Celebration Studio on the gram.
Love it. How cool. I know like this is, when I first got into the industry 14 years ago, we had the AIPP, which is like the Australian Institute of Professional Photography back then. And so when I started, they used to always every year have big workshops. And that's what I had coming into the industry for about the first 5 years before that closed down.
Yeah.
And then I feel like from that point onwards, there's been nothing. And like I'm hearing the same as you, where people are just craving this in person, but also with solid takeaways as well.
Yeah.
So I think like, yeah, where you've hit this market right now is like what everyone has been screaming out for. So I can't wait to see where it goes.
I'm excited. Everyone seems to be really excited, which also means that, you know, I'm in my happy place because I feel like we're really helping, and I can't wait to socialize and to support everyone. It's going to be, it's going to be awesome. Really exciting things to come.
Love it. Nat, thanks so much for coming back on.
Thanks, Toga.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to the Wedco podcast. If you love this episode, don't forget to subscribe, follow, and share it with your friends. We'd love to hear your thoughts, so leave a review or connect with us on social media. New episodes drop every week, so be sure to join us next time for more wedding inspiration, tips, and stories. Until then, happy planning, and we'll see you soon.